The Rakata abused the Force to enslave 1 trillion beings. They never cared about philosophy or the religion the Jedi and Sith would build around it. To them, it was only a weapon and a machine, and that's what finally destroyed them. Some species the Force never touched at all. Others were tested and found unfit for either side. 25,000 years of Jedi and Sith history. Let's find out which species never belonged to either one. So what does it actually take to be shut out of the Force's two great religions completely? Not sidelined, not rare, but zero. For the whole of galactic history. Both orders spent millennia hunting the galaxy for recruits. Jedi scouts testing younglings on 1,000 worlds. Sith masters combing the same worlds for acolytes strong enough to survive their own training. And still, certain species never once showed up on either list. In this video, we're looking at the ones that never crossed that line, including one a Sith Lord personally tried to turn into his own private army. One of them doesn't just resist the Force, it erases it completely. We'll get to that. First, we start with the Empire that came before either order existed. First, the Rakata, a species that built an empire spanning the galaxy roughly 30,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, long before the Jedi Order as we know it ever existed. According to Legends-era sources like Knights of the Old Republic, material Andor has since nodded toward as part of current canon, the Rakata were deeply attuned to the dark side, powering their technology directly through Force-fueled devices instead of training individual Force users at all. Their capital achievement was the Star Forge, an automated shipyard that converted raw hatred and violence into an endless supply of warships. They called themselves the Builders, and at their height, they ruled roughly 500 subject worlds and enslaved 1 trillion beings, drawn from dozens of conquered planets, including the early ancestors of species like the Wookiees and the Duros. According to the same sources, the Rakata are widely believed to have been the first species to master hyperspace travel, which is how an empire this old managed to spread this far, this fast. Centuries before anyone else in the galaxy left their home system. Their power collapsed from the inside. The same station that fed on their cruelty eventually turned that cruelty against them, dragging the Rakata into a civil war that tore their empire apart. A plague followed, one some scholars believe was engineered by their own slaves. What had been an empire of 10 billion Rakata fell into total barbarism within a few short centuries. Here's the irony. No species in galactic history channeled the dark side of the Force more directly than the Rakata, and not one of them was ever a Sith. The Sith Order didn't exist yet. The Jedi Order didn't exist yet. The Rakata weren't excluded for being too weak. They were simply too early. By the time either order was founded, the Builders were gone, reduced to scattered, technologyless tribes on a single, forgotten world. Unlike the Rakata, the next species never had a religion built around the Force at all, because the Force simply couldn't get a grip on them. Second, the Toydarians, small, blue, perpetually airborne, and functionally immune to Force persuasion. According to Wikipedia's compiled in-universe records, Toydarians are one of a handful of species, alongside Hutts, Yinchori, and a few others, whose minds are naturally resistant to the Jedi mind trick. Nobody has ever fully explained why. Some point to unique neural structuring, others just chalk it up to sheer stubbornness. Either way, the effect is the same. Suggestion, persuasion, coercion through the Force, none of it reliably works. Toydarians themselves come from Toydaria, a small, unremarkable world that never built a fleet, never fought for territory, and never produced a single Force tradition of its own. Most of the species instead spread out as traders, mechanics, and merchants across the Outer Rim, including on Tatooine, where junk dealers like Watto made their living buying and selling anything with resale value, slaves included. The most famous demonstration happens on Tatooine, in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon Jinn tries to talk junk dealer Watto into accepting Republic credits with a classic handwave. Watto isn't fooled for a second. "Mind tricks don't work on me, only money." A Jedi Master trained his entire life to bend weaker minds, stopped cold by a scrap dealer. Toydarians, not what you expected, or is it? Personally, I think the Toydarians deserve more credit than the galaxy ever gave them. An entire species immune to one of the most feared tools in the galaxy, running a junk shop on the least glamorous planet in the Outer Rim. The same being who couldn't be mind-tricked still lost a 9-year-old slave boy in a pod race bet he had no business making. So much for a species too stubborn for the Force to touch. What happens when a Sith Lord decides to weaponize a species anyway? Third, the Yinchori. Reptilian, aggressive, immune to mind tricks like the Toydarians before them, and the only species in this video a Sith Lord personally auditioned to fight his war for him. According to legend sources, the Yinchori joined the Galactic Republic in 58 BBY, embraced technology fast, and built a culture around a simple belief. If you're strong enough to take something and hold it, it's yours. They also armored themselves in cortosis, a mineral capable of shorting out a lightsaber blade on contact. The Jedi training manual, The Jedi Path, later cataloged them as naturally Force-resistant. According to Star Wars Saga Edition sourcebooks, no Yinchori has ever pursued the traditions of the Jedi, and no record anywhere shows one following the ways of the Sith either. That resistance is exactly why Darth Plagueis considered the Yinchori as the basis for a secret cloned army built to destroy the Jedi. When the experiment failed, his apprentice, Darth Sidious, found another use for them. In 33 BBY, Sidious manipulated the Yinchori into seizing a nearby shipyard and invading a moon shortly after. 2 Jedi envoys sent to negotiate were murdered, their bodies delivered to the Chancellor's own doorstep. The Jedi Order responded with a larger strike force, and the Yinchori retaliated by raiding the Jedi Temple on Coruscant itself. By the time the uprising was crushed, 7 Jedi had died, including a member of the Jedi Council, a species personally scouted by a Dark Lord of the Sith to become his private army, and not one of them ever became a Sith. Sidious got exactly what he wanted anyway, a weakened Chancellor, a galaxy that trusted the Senate a little less, and a Yinchori species that went right back to being ignored. And if a Sith Lord personally testing a species as his own private army is the kind of story you come to this channel for, hit like and subscribe. The Yinchori stood up to a Sith Lord and survived him. What comes next didn't just survive the Force, it made itself invisible to it, on a scale that nearly ended the galaxy. Finally, the Yuuzhan Vong, an extragalactic species that isn't just resistant to the Force, but invisible to it entirely. Introduced in R.A. Salvatore's 1999 novel Vector Prime, the first book of the New Jedi Order series, the Yuuzhan Vong arrived from outside the galaxy entirely, wielding living, biologically grown technology instead of machines, amphistaffs instead of blades, coral skippers instead of starfighters. Jedi couldn't sense them approaching, couldn't read their intentions, and couldn't influence them with the Force at all. To every Force-sensitive being in the galaxy, they were, quite literally, holes in the Force. Their entire caste system, warriors, priests, shapers who grew living weapons instead of building them, and intendants who ran their theocracy, functioned completely outside the Force's reach, which is part of why the New Republic never saw the invasion coming, until warships were already burning in the Outer Rim. Between 25 and 29 ABY, the Yuuzhan Vong War tore through the New Republic. Coruscant itself was conquered, and reshaped into a twisted mockery of Yuuzhan Tar, their original homeworld. Entire species were pushed to extinction, and the New Republic's greatest early warning system, the Force sense of its own Jedi Order, was completely useless against the invaders leading the charge. That's the species we teased at the start of this video. And here's the irony. The one power the Jedi Order trusted more than any other, sensing danger before it arrived, was exactly the power that failed them here, against the one species built to erase the Force itself. The Jedi's greatest advantage became their biggest blind spot. The Yuuzhan Vong were eventually stopped, not through force power, but through the sentient planet Zonama Sekot, a coalition of species who had every reason to stay divided, and years of brutal, grinding warfare that cost the New Republic entire worlds before it was over. Personally, if I had to rank these 4 exclusions by how dangerous they actually were, the Vong win without question. An entire war fought on equal footing, with the Force taken completely off the table.